All right, so we are doing equations of circles now, which is, it's really kind of awesome because it connects with algebra a lot in some of the quadratic stuff that we did. Okay, so first of all, let's go ahead and talk about quadratics. Okay, so if you remember in Algebra 1, we would write things in this form, and I would have you guys tell me what all the transformations were. Okay, so a negative out front means, oh my gosh, I can't talk. It flips. The 3 meant that it was skinnier. Okay. The +1, the inside the parentheses is the left right shift. Okay. And even though it's +1, you think it would go right, but it actually goes left 1 because it would have to be solved. So if you subtracted 1, it would be left 1. And then the outside, it's exactly what you think. So it's down 5 units. Okay, so if you remember that, we know that the vertex, we know that it goes left 1 and down 5. So it's -1, -5 is that vertex. Okay, this was called vertex form. All right, so for this one, if you remember the 1/2, so I didn't flip this one because there's no negative. The 1/2 actually makes it wider, slows it down instead of skinnier. Inside the parentheses, again, is the left-right shift. So it's the opposite of what you think. Whenever it's inside parentheses, it's the opposite. So you would think it was left, but it's actually right 5 units. And then this would be up 10. So this is vertex form. So if I went right 5 and up 10, the vertex would be right 5, so +5, up 10. Okay, so we figured out those things. So let's talk about a circle. So I'm not sure if you guys ever saw me write down x² + y² = 25, but that is like a basic circle right here. Okay, so the standard form of a circle is x - h² + y - k² = r². So that HK is the center and R is the radius. So if you notice right here, since there's nothing with the x portion of the center is 0, nothing with the y. The y portion of the center is 0. And then the radius, this is actually r². So if r² = 25, our radius would be 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and try some of these. So these graphs aren't going to be great, but who cares? So this is the opposite of what you think. So it's not right 4, it's left 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I go up 2 or down 2. So for that one, I would actually go up 2. So the left 4, up 2. It's the opposite of what you think. So there's my center. And to figure out the radius, you just take the square root of that because in the formula, that's r². Okay, so my radius is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Counting 1, 2, 5 in all directions. So I can do the best circle possible. Oh my gosh, that was horrible, but there's my circle. Okay, I think you guys get the idea. So let's talk about number 2. What are the shifts to the circle? And you know it's a circle because it has an x² and a y². Okay, so at this point, if it's an x² and a y², you know it's a circle. Okay, so this doesn't go left 7, it goes right 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then nothing. So it stays right there. Okay, and since r² = 4, remember the ending number is r², you have to take the square root to get r = 2. So this has, a radius of 2, and bam, there's my circle. I keep missing, but I think you get the point. Okay, so let's do the next one. So which way would I go in that x direction? So do I go left or do I go right? Right 3. And for the y direction, do I go up or down? Down. Okay, 49. So r² = 49. So the radius equals 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hopefully I counted correctly. 1, 2. Okay, and then just do your best job in doing that circle right there. Okay, All right, so I didn't write down the center, but the center right here would be -4, +2. And the radius is the square root of 25. So r equals 5. Probably should have done that. So this one right here, the center is +7, nothing, right? 7, 0. Take the square root of 4, and the radius equals 2. Okay, so this one right here, the radius equals 7 because I did the square root of 49. This is right 3 down 1. +3 down 1. Okay? All right, so let's go to the back side. I don't think we need to do the next one, so let's go to the back side. All right, so on the back side, now you don't have to do anything. Okay? Like you don't have to, I'm sorry, you don't have to do any graphing. Okay? So let's just do, let me get this underneath here. Let's do the center and the radius on this one. So center right here would be 5, 1. It's the opposite of whatever is inside there. The square root of 64, the radius equals 8. Okay, now be careful on this next one. This next one says center, so no shift on the x, -10 on the y, so 0, -10. But how do I get the diameter? Take the square root of 42.25 in your calculator right now. Take the square root of 42.25, pause your video and take the square root of it. Okay, and I got a radius of 6.5, but that's not what it asked me for. It asked me for the diameter. So double that and we get 13. Okay, let's go ahead and do number 8. So number 8, where would the center be? It's the opposite of what it says right here because it would have to be solved. So 6, -11, right? Okay, so since r squared equals 80, right? Square root it and square root it. I want you to always remember that you can use simplest radical form. Okay, so isn't that 16 times 5? So r equals 4 radical 5. 16 times 5, right? Okay, so the radius, I'm going to give an exact answer for radical 5 right there. You don't have to, but I just want to show you that you should be using those skills whenever you can. Okay, the center for this next one is -2, -9. Okay, -2, -9. Now I have to find the circumference. So you can either do the pi d or 2 pi r. Just remember that this only has to do with the radius. So r squared equals 196. You can't take half of it or double it and get the diameter. You have to find the radius first. So square root, r equals 14. So diameter would equal 28. But you don't even really, it doesn't even really matter because circumference formula, you can use either one. Okay, so 2 pi r or pi d. So 28 pi is what I'm putting for the circumference. Okay, if you wanted to, you could round it to the nearest tenth. Right now, I'm just doing exact answers. Depends on the problem and how they ask you to do it. Okay, so number 10, let's skip number 10. That's another circumference one. Actually, let's do it. Let's do it because it has another radical in it that I like. Okay, so number 10, the center would be 3, 0. Let's take r squared equals 32 and square root it. So that's 16 times 2, right? So r equals 4 the square root of 2. Right here. Okay, r equals the square root 4 the square root of 2. So you can double that. So the diameter equals 8 radical 2's. So 4 radical 2's plus 4 radical 2's. So 2 times that is just 8 radical 2. You don't double that also. So it's 8 radical 2. So the circumference, I would do pi d. So I would write 8 pi radical 2. Okay, I always write my 8 and my pi out front of the radical, but I suppose you could put it wherever you wanted to. That's just how it looks appropriate. Okay, so number 11, I get, so we're going to do area of the circle now. So the center is 3, -4. What does the radius equal? The radius equals 9. So let's do pi r squared. So pi 9 squared, so 81 pi, exact answer. Okay, if they ask you to get it to the nearest tenth, go for it. Center on number 12, opposites, right? So -7, -2. And let's do the square root of 108. So what would that be? Square root of 108, isn't that 36 times 3? Yep, so 6 radical 3. So the radius equals 6 radical 3 because that was radius squared, right? All right, so the radius equals 6 radical 3. So pi radius squared. So I have to do pi times the radius squared. Okay, so remember when you're doing this one that both of these get squared. So 6 times 6 is 36. The square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 9, which is just 3. Okay, so maybe make sure you're working that out. You'll have a calculator if you need help with it. So 36 times 3 is 18, so 108. So 36 times 3 makes this 108 pi. Okay, so make sure you know that you square that and you square that. So the answer to the area in that one would be 108 pi. Okay, so this next part is going to require us to do something from algebra, okay, that we have not done in a while. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one, and then I'm going to do a handful of examples. So you really need to make sure that you're paying attention. I'm going to be completing the square. Okay, so the general form for the equation of a circle is ax squared plus by squared, okay, plus cx plus dy plus e equals 0. So a, b, c, d, and e are just coefficients and constants, okay? So what you have to do is complete the square with the x's and complete the square with the y's. So if you don't remember what I'm talking about, first step, let's rearrange them to group the x terms and the y terms together. So I'm going to put x squared minus 2, that's a minus right there, minus 2x. Oh my gosh, I'm flipping it up. Plus y squared plus 6y. And then put the 6, the constant, on the other side. Okay, so group the x terms together, group the y terms together, move the constant to the other side. Okay, so now you need to do x squared plus 2x plus something plus y squared plus 6y plus something equals 6 plus something plus something. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second. Okay, so this right here, I'm doing both of these steps right now. So you're going to take half of the 2, which is 1, and square it. 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, but whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So you have to add 1 to the other side. All right, now you're going to see why I'm doing this in a second. You're going to take half of 6 and square it. So half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Okay, so this right here has now become a perfect square trinomial, and it breaks down to, so what you've actually done is you've created 2 perfect square trinomials. So this right here, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's x plus 1, the quantity squared. And this right here, so put a plus sign, this right here is y plus 3, the quantity squared. Check me on that one. FOIL these 2 things back out. Is that y squared plus 6y plus 9? Is that x squared plus 2x's plus 1? So this is called completing the square because you've made it a perfect square trinomial. And now it's factorable like what we need to see in a circle for the shifts. Okay? So let's go ahead and put this total over here. So it's equal to 15 plus 1 is 16. Okay, so that's your first one. You completed the square with that one. Now identify the center and the radius. So the center is -1, -3, and the radius of this is the square root of 16. So the radius equals 4. Okay, I love this because we're doing so much algebra right here. And it's just going to help you in your math career to be able to do these simply. Okay, so for number 13, we are going to complete the square. But remember, we need to get x's and y's together first and the constant over to the other side. Okay, so x squared plus 14x plus something plus y squared minus 4y plus something equals, kick that 17 over to the other side, and it's negative 17. Remember that. Okay, so the one that we just did, it was actually, let me check. Yeah, it was a negative 6, and when I moved it over to the other side over here, it was positive 6. But this is positive 17, so I move it over here, so it's negative 17. Okay, so I kind of skipped a little bit of steps. I like to put the x's and the y's together and put my plus something and my plus something right here all in one step. And in the same step, I put the constant over here. Okay, so let's complete the square. The process to complete the square is taking half of this middle value, so half of 14 is 7, and square. 7 squared is 49. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other, right? You're going to have two things that you add over here. Take half of negative 4, which is negative 2. Negative 2 times itself, right, is 4. Okay, so I added 4, so I have to add 4 over there. All right. Now, these are perfect square trinomials, so break them down to their quantity squared. So what would it be squared? So x plus 7, right? X plus 7. The square root of that, the square root of that. The square root of that goes there, the square root of that goes there. 2 of those would be 14. The square root of that goes there, the square root of that goes there, minus 2 of those would be negative 4y. There you go. Okay, if you don't believe me, FOIL them back out. You have to be able to go back and forth. Okay, so negative 17 plus 49 plus 4 all together, that equals 36. Look at this beautiful simple circle right here. Center is negative 7, positive 2, and the radius is 6. Okay, so let's go ahead and do number, let's see. Let's do number 15 because it says identify the center and the diameter. So here we did center and radius. So let's do center and diameter here. Okay, so let's put the x's together. I have no other x's, right? Plus y squared minus 12y plus something. So I don't have to complete the square right here. Equals, move the 85 over to the other side. So it would be positive 85. Okay, so x squared, there's no shift right here. So I don't have to complete the square with it. Here, I take half of negative 12, which is negative 6, and square it. 36. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other, right? But here, I'm going to break it down to what is it squared? Square root that, and this should be this doubled. Okay, so I'm sorry, this right here should be doubled to get negative 12, and it works. Okay, all right, what's 85 plus 36, right? So that's 121. Okay, so the radius, the center is no shift, 0, 6, and the radius equals 11. But they don't want the radius, they want the diameter. So the diameter equals 22. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and go to, let's do number 17. Circumference or center and circumference. So if you have to get the center, okay, you have to complete the square. You have to get it into that form. Okay, so get your x's together, get your y's together, leave a space, get your constants over on the other side. Okay, so I'm going to, all right, so right here, x squared, this would be minus 18x with it, plus something, plus y squared minus 2y plus something. So I took care of that, move that over, equals negative 62. There we go. Okay, so let's see. I know I'm going to have to complete the square here, so I'm going to have to add something, and I'm going to do it here, so I'm also going to have to do something else. Okay, so what is the process? What do I do with this? Right here. Half of it and square that value. Half of negative 18 is negative 9. Negative 9 squared is 81. Add 81. Half of negative 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. Add 1. Okay, so now break them down. Go ahead and pause your video and see if you can do this one. Break them down and see if you can figure out what the binomial is squared. Let's see, so 20. Okay, so you know the center is at 9, 1. Center is at 9, 1. Okay, but they want to know the diameter. So let's do this. R squared equals 20. The square root. R equals, this is 4 times 5. So R equals 2 radical 5. Double that. 2 radical 5 times 2 is the diameter of 4 radical 5. Exact answer. Bingo. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and do, I think we're good. Honestly, I think we're good because I think you understand how to get the circumference. You just have to get the radius, and how to get the area. You just have to get the radius. Okay, so the homework is, and this is a pretty long one. So let's go ahead and do 10.9, and we will still do the odds. Okay. All right. Good luck with your circle stuff.